Hello, my friends. It's day 29 as we read through the New Testament together. Today, we've read Revelation chapter 1 through 11. Back in 2 Peter 3:16, we heard that Peter said of Paul that some of the things that he wrote were hard to understand. And if that was true of Paul, it is certainly true of John here in the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation is unique. It's unlike any other book in the whole Bible. And that trips us up a lot of times. So I want to give you some tips, 6 tips to help you as you read through the book of Revelation today and tomorrow. So tip number 1, first of all, know that Revelation uses a lot of imagery rather than just literal statements. Now, there are some literal statements in the book of Revelation, no doubt, but it's using a lot of vivid imagery, especially echoes from the Old Testament. So be ready for that and be on the lookout for that and trace down those references and citations of Old Testament scriptures because it'll give you some clue of what John is hinting at. Second tip is don't read Revelation as a timeline. It is not a timeline. This is one of the biggest mistakes that modern Christians try to make when they come to Revelation. They want to create a big map and scheme that lines everything up. Revelation is not meant to be a timeline. Let me give you just like one clue onto that. There's the cycles of judgments. You have the trumpet judgments and the bowl judgments and the different judgments and everything. View those cycles not as one after the other, View them perhaps maybe as occurring simultaneously because each one of them ends up with Jesus coming back. Jesus doesn't come back over and over and over. He's coming back one time. So if you look at those, it's almost as though it's viewing one scene from a different angle as you think about those judgments. That might help you out in that. Tip number 3, stay grounded in what's clear from the rest of Scripture. If you come up with Revelation and you come up with things that contradict the fact that Jesus will return, that the dead will be raised, that we will all be judged, that the righteous will live forever with Christ in the new heavens and the new earth, that the wicked will face eternal judgment. If you come up with stuff that contradicts that basic stuff, that clear teaching of Scripture, you're on the wrong track in Revelation. So use what's clear in Scripture to help you understand what can be unclear. Tip number 4, realize that many of the judgments that play out through the book of Revelation are not one time, at the end of time type of events. Many of them are already occurring. For example, you have the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and you have the pale horse, and one of the things he brings with him is disease. Well, disease doesn't show up at the end of time. Disease is with us now. This virus thing, it kind of shows that, right? And God, there are judgments that are being meted out throughout history. That kind of relates to this next tip, number 5. If your understanding of Revelation either allows you to predict when Jesus will come back or it excludes that Jesus could come back today, then you're on the wrong track in Revelation. Let me be clear. If your reading of Revelation creates a map where you can say Jesus is going to come back on December 31st, 2025, or whatever date you want to set, or even a series of events you want to set that has to happen first, you're missing the point of Revelation. That's not what it's meant to help you do. The other thing is, and this happens quite a bit, is I had someone tell me one time that Jesus couldn't come back today because modern day Russia hasn't, I guess it was the USSR back in those days, modern day USSR hasn't, or Russia hasn't invaded modern day Israel. So Jesus can't come back yet. And he had some sort of scheme that said that this couldn't happen because of these certain things. The early Christians were very clear. They expected Jesus to come back at any time. No man knows the day or hour. He's going to come back like a thief in the night, and you won't be expecting him. So if your scheme of Revelation creates a system whereby you can predict or exclude that Jesus could come at a certain time, you're reading it wrong. So be careful, again, of those timelines that we want to default to in the book of Revelation. It's not what it's trying to do for us. And then number 6, let the excitement, the vivid imagery capture your heart as you read Revelation and not just your mind. Don't just try to figure out all the answers. Stand in awe as the beast is coming. Stand in awe as Babylon falls and everybody's weeping and wailing. stand in awe as King Jesus returns and slays all his enemies and the righteous rule with him forever. And just go, wow, that's incredible. And not have to feel like you know all the answers that are there. So I hope these tips, I know this video was longer than most of them, and that's okay because I wanted to give you these tips because I know Revelation can be a really tricky book. So I hope you'll forgive me the length, and I hope these are of some benefit to you. See you tomorrow as we wind up reading through the New Testament in 30 days. God bless, my friends.